Welcome to a truly wonderful day in the history of Williams College. It's a real pleasure for us to have the 17th president of Williams College here with us today to introduce him to the community. And I've been asked before I say anything else to make a public service announcement. Apparently this is the practice these days, so please turn off your cell phones. And you know, a few days ago, it was Linda and my great pleasure to host the Muslim members of the community at the celebration at the end of Ramadan. And it was a wonderful occasion of joy and community and gift giving. And in that spirit of joy, community, and gift giving, I'm very pleased that the Presidential Search Committee and the Board of Trustees has given us this magnificent gift of Adam Falk as the next president of Williams College. And believe me, no one is more joyful than I to be making that announcement. It truly is a wonderful, wonderful gift that they've given us. Having spent the day with Adam, I am absolutely and utterly confident that he will lead Williams with intellect, wit, grace, and wisdom. He's a wonderful person. He understands the kind of institution that we are and is prepared to lead us into the future. I think we're in very, very good hands. So I would like to thank the search committee, and particularly Greg Avis, for the incredible work that they've done. I know it was a very difficult and hard endeavor. And before I welcome Adam and his wife Karen and their children who are sitting in the front row, I'd also like to note that I've been at Williams College for 30 years now. This is, you know, if you include me, it's my 7th president. And I've had the pleasure and privilege to serve with some really wonderful presidents, and 2 of them are on stage with us today. Number 12, John Chandler. And number 13, Frank Oakley. And I'm the asterisk. So again, it's a real great pleasure. It's a truly great pleasure to welcome Adam and his family. We're looking forward to getting to know you better, to working with you over the years. In the long chain of introductions, I'd like to first introduce Andrea Donaluk, the acting dean of the faculty.
I realize you're all here looking forward to the main event, but I am here to introduce and to thank on behalf of the Presidential Search Committee and all of you, somebody without whom today might not have happened. And that's Greg Avis, the chair of the Presidential Search Committee. To say that Greg Avis has worked tirelessly on behalf of Williams during the search process would be a gross understatement. Since last December, he has focused virtually all of his considerable energies on the effort to find the best person in the world to lead Williams at this point in our history. He has crisscrossed the country multiple times, soliciting advice and suggestions from leaders in American higher education, meeting with prospective candidates, and interviewing candidates. He probably now has more frequent flyer miles than anyone on the planet. But that's only the most obvious part of the story. The more important part is this. He has been a remarkable leader of our search committee, guiding the process with scrupulous fairness, with the highest standards of integrity, with wisdom and sensitive good judgment. Inclusiveness is his watchword. He has made sure that every view was heard, every position considered, every candidate given careful, thoughtful consideration. And he did all this with great warmth, good humor, and personal grace. Greg, we thank you for all you've done and continue to do on behalf of the college we all love.
Thank you, Andrea, and now for the fun part. First, I want to thank Bill Wagner. It's because of his steady hand, along with the efforts of all of you at the college, that we as a search committee did not need to work under undue pressure. And finally, thank yous would not be complete without another to number 16, Morty Shapiro. His leadership helped place Williams in a position of strength to attract the attention of the very best candidates in the country. So thanks, Morty, if you're watching on the webcast. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to extend thanks to the entire Williams community, faculty, students, staff, alumni, and our local neighbors. It is because of you all that we are here this afternoon, eager to welcome the 17th president of Williams. We have been united in our effort to climb high and climb far in providing, and in the student's case, receiving, the finest possible liberal arts education. And we have worked together to find the best leader to help us in this cause. I have two brief tasks this afternoon. The first is to share with you a little bit about the process that resulted in number 17. The second is to introduce our next president. While the responsibility for selecting the president of the college is ultimately that of the board, in fact, it is the board's most important duty. The real work is in the hands of the Presidential Search Committee. I am indebted to and in awe of the 16 individuals, now all my friends, on this committee. Our first task was to develop the presidential position prospectus. All of you here in Chapin and beyond were solicited for your input on the challenges facing the college and the attributes that we all sought in our next president. You gave freely of your aspirations and concerns. We listened carefully, and through the brilliant work of a few committee members, crafted a provocative prospectus. In fact, we were told by a substantial number of prospects that the document captured and conveyed a unique Williams voice that was a determining factor in attracting them to the college and the position. In tandem with this process, we began developing a pool of candidates with the assistance of our search consultant, Isaacson Miller. Is John Isaacson here? John? John, will you stand up, please? John. John brought grace, an understanding of Williams, and a learned conscience to our committee. Thank you, John, for your guidance and friendship. All worked exceptionally hard, and we left few stones unturned to develop a talented, diverse group of candidates. We ventured out in groups of 3 or 4 across the country to interview over 40 individuals. We're told that this was twice the usual amount in a search such as ours. We met in person roughly once a month, usually for all day or sometimes 2-day sessions. And we had conference calls, many conference calls, in between. It was extraordinary work by extraordinary people. I'd like to introduce them to you. Members of the committee, please stand when I call your name, and I ask those in attendance to please hold your applause until all are introduced and properly saluted. A few members aren't in attendance today. They finally have their day jobs back. And these are trustees Val DeChristian, Dave Coolidge, Mike Eisenson, Jonathan Kraft, Steve Hardy, and Clayton Spencer. Also, Vice President of the Society of Alumni, Chris Giglio. And my fellow committee members here on stage, from the faculty and staff, the Professor of Computer Science and Acting Dean of the Faculty, Andrea Donaluk, Robert G. Scott, 68, Professor of English, Steve Fix, Edward Dorr Griffin, Professor of Psychology, Lori Hetherington, Professor of Physics, Tiku Majumder, and College Librarian, Dave Pilichowski. Also, we have the President of the Society of Alumni, Sarah Underhill. And last, and of course not least, our student members, Alan Arias and Lizzie Brickley. In addition, the committee was served very ably by its secretary, Ephraim Williams Professor of History Charles Dew, and our coordinator, which as a title does not do justice to the expert roles that she played, Danielle Gonzalez. All of you have my and the college's deepest gratitude. The time commitment and agility needed to serve on the committee were daunting. You spent hundreds of hours in outreach to the community, writing, meetings, conference calls, interviews, networking, reference checking, and reviewing materials. Each of you, and the group as a whole, was unwavering in your honesty, integrity, inclusion, and commitment to our mission. On behalf of the board and the entire Williams community, thank you for a job well done. Last week, the committee completed its work by meeting with and then delivering a short list of finalists to the Board of Trustees. The board, after interviews and deliberation, selected with enthusiasm our next president. Historically, at this time, a person in my position would begin with a litany of accomplishments and background on the individual about to be introduced. But in the age of Google, Twitter, and Facebook, and observing that the Williams servers were down last night for quite some time, you all know this already. And you're anxious to hear from our next president, Adam Falk, so I'll be brief. But I'll share with you a little bit about him. Both the committee and the board were deeply impressed by Adam's intellect, energy, clarity of thought, and outstanding record of leadership. He embodies the values that we treasure at Williams: a commitment to excellence, inclusion, opportunity, and to making a difference in the world. One only has to refer back to our prospectus, which, remember, is our document, to validate our choice. This is how one of the charges in the prospectus reads: Williams seeks in its next president a person who will vigorously and rigorously engage the college community in charting a dynamic future for Williams. This person will need the ability to lead, the courage to ask the college community to look critically at itself and openly at the world, and the judgment and experience to execute with a steady hand and a collaborative spirit. Sounds like we have a fit so far. And following are some of the attributes we sought as put forth in the prospectus: a broadly gauged intellectual, curious and widely read, with a lively turn of mind. Adam is a noted theoretical physicist with a passion for inquiry, no doubt fueled by growing up in a household where philosophy dominated dinner table discussions. I can tell you it's a lot different than our table when I was growing up. And as far as I know, he will be the only the second president from the sciences, the first being Paul Chadbourne in the 1870s. Yeah. Go Division III. The next attribute: a leader with the soul of a teacher who takes pleasure in the company of students. Adam has won prestigious awards for teaching and inspiring undergraduates, and relishes time with students both in and out of the classroom, and perhaps, I hear, on the basketball court. Another attribute: an expansive, open-minded leader committed to diversity, ready to listen and respectful of the views of others, who can readily join the personal and collaborative Williams culture. Our deep respect for and the strength of our community attracted Adam to Williams. he and his wife Karen have a strong interest, and their boys and their daughter, have a strong interest in building our community further. Another attribute, a seasoned manager, a collaborator, and a team builder with proven judgment as a mentor to an administrative team, and with the diligence and experience to execute the essential business of the college. A proven collaborator and sound decision maker, Adam has dealt brilliantly with a number of contentious issues in his time of administration at Johns Hopkins. Finally, an individual with the personal confidence to lead, the humility to listen, the capacity to credit others for their contributions, a leader who possesses the substance, strength, and optimism to bring the Williams community through the essential choices of the next decade. These are your words, and these words cannot better describe our next president. It is with great pride and happiness that I present to you our choice as the 17th president of Williams, Adam Falk. So proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't think I have the words to express how delighted and honored and humbled I am to be here today, but I am going to try for the next 10 or 15 minutes. I understand that the physics students are sitting in the front row. So I thought for a minute I might, instead of these remarks, give my favorite lecture on the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen effect, but maybe the rest of you wouldn't be so interested in that. This is a remarkable opportunity for me and for my family, and I am profoundly grateful to the Board of Trustees, to the search committee, and especially to Greg Avis for making this possible, for their confidence in me, for their generosity in this entire process, and for bringing me to Williams College. This place, after one day, already feels very, very much like home. So I did some media calls this morning, and one of the questions I got repeatedly was, well, why were you interested in coming to Williams? Which I think is maybe a natural question if you're starting off a media interview, but frankly, it's a question that utterly flabbergasted me. Why would I be interested in coming to Williams? Williams is the gold standard for liberal arts education. It is one of the truly great institutions in American higher education. I mean, I've been fond of saying for the last 7 years at Johns Hopkins something that is true, which is that Johns Hopkins University taught this country how to educate PhDs. I think it is equally true that Williams College has shown this country how to educate undergraduates. Now, this is an extraordinary place, and it's an extraordinary place above all else because of the students and the faculty and the staff that have supported Williams, that have been Williams since 1793. And as I reflect on the search process, the single greatest gift of that process was to allow me to look beyond the incredible reputation that Williams has, that would make anybody look at this job, and to go beyond that and to show me directly and personally how amazing this community is. So let me start with the students. Again, everybody knows how terrific the Williams students are. But I started to see that personally this summer. So after my first conversation with John Isaacson and Greg Avis, I decided that I needed to see this place. And that was very early on, and nobody knew who I was. And so I hopped a plane from Baltimore to Albany, and I came up, and I took a tour. I pretended that I was the uncle of a prospective student. And you have to do a little explaining if you're this lone man doing the college tour. And it was a little suspicious. But what I remembered was that there was this marvelous tour guide, and I know that I don't remember her name, I know I'm going to meet her again on the campus, and her ability to articulate what Williams was about, what the curriculum was about, what the entry system was about, what the purposes of Williams were, what was amazing to me. And I've done tours at other places, and I'd never seen this kind of ability to articulate what an institution is in that kind of a context. And I think my own falling in love with Williams came from that experience and that tour. And then when I started to spend time with the students on the committee, I was amazed at the kind of the sophistication of the conversations we were having, of interesting issues, difficult issues. And it was so clear that the students here at Williams are not here to just pay for and take a marvelous education, but every one of them to give, to leave this institution better than they found it. The faculty. Now again, the reputation of the Williams faculty is simply extraordinary. And certainly I knew of the accomplishments. But what I learned of was the remarkable tradition of faculty governance. And I have to say that it's true what Greg says about the prospectus. The prospectus was a remarkable document in terms of capturing the quality of this community. I think community is something I'm going to return to. But these remarkable traditions of faculty governance that are, in fact, I'm very at home with, because at Johns Hopkins we have similar traditions, even if expressed differently. I believe the faculty are the underpinning of any great academic institution, which is what Williams is, and the faculty governance mechanisms and the way they are lived are the way that the faculty expresses its ownership of the core values of the institution. The alumni. Now, Williams has the greatest alumni in the country, and everybody knows that, not just the Williams alumni, who are already telling me that in great numbers. So the alumni are loyal, and they are generous, and they are without pretense in a way that maybe isn't so clear if you're actually one of them. But Williams alums aren't the first thing they tell you. But as soon as they know you have some connection to the college, it comes right out. But what I learned that was really important about the alumni is that many alumni of institutions look back. Right? They want the place to stay the way it was when they were here. It's a way of encapsulating that magical period from about 18 to 22, when one grew up and came of age. And that's not the Williams alumni at all. The work of the college is to conserve, right? The work of those of us who lead colleges is to conserve what's essential about an institution. And every institution has those things that are essential to it. And at the same time, to change in the ways that the institution needs to change in order to lead. And the alumni on the board are supportive of that process, supportive of a Williams that's going to be in the future, and not just the Williams that they remember from the past. Now, the staff. Now, no college can be great without a committed and talented staff. And the president may be allowed to think that he runs the college, but the staff make the college run. And what I saw here, again, I dealt with many staff from Danielle to others, and as the process has kind of accelerated. And what I found so remarkable, is conveyed by every interaction, is that the staff here are driven by the mission of Williams as everyone else is here. That there is a purpose to the staff and their work that just infuses every single thing that happens here. And that gives a quality to the community that I think is really quite remarkable. And finally, Williamstown and the Berkshires. Williams could not be Williams if it were not here, right here, on what I have to confess to somebody who's lived in Baltimore for 16 years, still does feel like the frontier. This area is, although when I find the target, finally, I'll know that this is civilization. When you have boys who go through one pair of shoes every 4 weeks, you learn where the target is. Yeah, it's you. So it's physically beautiful, it's culturally rich, and it's historically resonant region. I love the quote from Thoreau that is, of course, so associated with the college, that it would be no small advantage if every college were thus located at the base of a mountain. And I think that you only have to spend a little time at the base of this mountain and understand why that is. But Williams is also amazing because of some very particular people, in particular, the extraordinary presidential leadership that it has known over the last decades. Certainly Morty Shapiro, if you're still watching Morty on the webcast, Carl Vogt, Hank Payne, Frank Oakley, and John Chandler. I have much to learn from their example, and from some of them, I have much to learn personally. So now, because of them, my job is going to be simultaneously a very easy one, because of the marvelous institution that I'm inheriting, and an incredibly hard one, because the shoes that I have to fill are enormous shoes, and I certainly won't expect to fill them all at once. In fact, I couldn't fill them at all were it not for the fact that my family is going to be joining me here and on this campus, and I do want to introduce them. We've waved at them a little bit, but Karen's looking at me and saying, no, you're not, but I am. So let me just tell you, I'll ask them to stand in a moment, but my wife Karen of 10 years, our 10th anniversary is in another week. My sons David and Alex, who are 8 and 7, are here with us today. My daughter Brianna, whose 14th birthday is tomorrow, decided not to come. She has school and she has volleyball, and she doesn't want to miss this for one of Dad's work events. I suggested to her as I dropped her off at some friends where she was saying, I said, well, honey, if you miss me, you could watch it on the webcast. And she said, well, Dad, I think I'm going to be fine. So those of you who have teenage daughters know what I'm talking about. So Karen and David and Alex, would you stand so everybody can see who you are? I'm going to distribute photos of the boys around the campus, because if I look at the range where a little boy can walk, I don't think it really takes you out of Williamstown. So if they get lost and any of you see them around, you can just bring them back to the president's house. It's better than the electric fence and the collar. All of us are, which we do have for the dog, all of us are enormously excited to be coming here and joining this community. So let me say a little bit about who I am. I was born in North Carolina, for those of you maybe who didn't go to the website. Now, are there any, this is a weird little shout out, but anybody here from the North Carolina School of Science and Math? Yes, no? 17 yards away? So you live in you went to E.K. Poe Elementary? Nearby, yeah. So I went to a school that we used to call, when I was there, the School of S&M. Seriously. And I grew up that was my high school. You know what I'm talking about. So I grew up in a family that was mostly immigrants. My parents immigrated via long peregrinations caused by the Second World War, but originally from Germany in the 30s for reasons that one can imagine. And in the end, I had 2 parents and 2 step-parents, and among them were a professor of philosophy and 2 psychotherapists and a toy store owner. You can guess who the favorite of the children is. And I grew up a true Tar Heel. I went to University of North Carolina. I'm going to really have to watch my language during the Carolina-Duke basketball games. But I do know something about sports rivalries and how much they mean to colleges and universities. And I really am looking forward to beating Amherst every single year that I'm here. I'm glad to know I finally found the applause line. So after 22 years in North Carolina, I spent my graduate years in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I developed there actually a love for the state of Massachusetts. Really, the physical beauty and the strong civic virtues that I think really are deeply inherent in the politics and the culture here. Spent a few years in California as a postdoc, and then came to Baltimore and Johns Hopkins about 15 years ago. Now, Baltimore is a wonderful, wonderful city that I will tell you I'm going to miss very much. And some people from Baltimore here? The Orioles will get better. I mean, any city that produced Barry Levinson, Camden Yards, steamed blue crabs, and all the other members of my family, Karen and the kids, has to be a city I will always love. But it's wonderful in ways, of course, that are very different from Williamstown. And I come from Hopkins, which is a place that's also very different from Williamstown. I promise not to say Johns Hopkins when I get here. The nice thing is that if I occasionally say Hopkins, people will think I'm talking about the building. And so if you would just give me the benefit of the doubt on that, I'll be grateful. But in the, a lot of, when I thought about why I did want to come to Williams so much, the commonalities between Johns Hopkins and Williams really started to become clear to me. They are profoundly values and mission-driven institutions. Neither of them is large, and I think they all are much more focused on intrinsic quality than on being all things to all people. And I think the academic and social values that I bring to Williams from Hopkins are going to be very familiar, and the values of this institution will be very familiar to me. Now, I'm already being asked about my priorities. I don't have any yet. What I need to do is get to know this remarkable institution by more, and I've met dozens of people, and I need to meet hundreds of people. I need to live this place, and I need to get to know the area. I have so much to learn from the students, the faculty, the staff, the alumni. I have so many people to meet. I need to learn to become at home in Williamstown and in the surrounding areas, in Williams, North Adams, and Adams, Pittsfield, and the Berkshires. What I'm going to do in the first year is listen. I haven't brought priorities, I've brought my ears. And the things that we're going to do together, because all the things we do, we're going to do together, are going to be ideas that we come to together. So I'm not coming with priorities, but I'm coming with some very significant commitments. And I think as I wind up these remarks, let me share those commitments with you. The first commitment is to academic quality. We exist in higher education, and we certainly exist in at Williams, because in order to nourish that magic that happens between faculty and students, when you bring them together, put them in the classroom and close the door, and let the faculty and the students interact. And everything else we do is in support of that simple but not easy task. I was captivated by the quote from James Garfield, which I'm sure is tattooed on you when you enroll, that the ideal college is Mark Hopkins on one end of a log and a student on the other. I mean, I think that much more elegantly than I'd ever been able to say it captures what I think we're all about. Now, the logs are now high-tech classrooms and the internet, but that doesn't change at all the fact that learning is a social endeavor, and our task is to nourish that community that can engage in that fundamentally social endeavor. Second, I'm as committed to the life outside the classroom as I am to the life within the walls of the classroom. The period of 18 to 22 or so is a period in which we learn a lot, but also in which we become adults. And that means finding the right balance in life. It means finding many interests. It means learning to meet new people and interact with them. And it means also a life that includes athletics. And I know at Williams that is for everybody, that varsity athletics, intramural athletics, and simply my favorite, which is hiking in the mountains. All of these things are available. And I know that in this culture, in this community, what is deep in the culture is that our bodies are to be developed at the same time and in concert with developing our minds. And I'm thrilled that Williams seems to understand that in a way that few institutions do. By the way, I'm already looking for a basketball game. It needs to be regular. It needs to have middle-aged guys like me who are slow and who can't jump, but who don't mind banging in elbows and have a lot of enthusiasm, and Karen is nodding at the elbows. So send me an email if you can help me out there. I'm committed to diversity, and let me say as clearly as I can that diversity is not a box that we check off and then forget. Diversity has many dimensions. You start ethnicity and gender and religion and sexual expression, country of origin, politics. And if I look within my own extended family, every single one of these dimensions is diverse along those, in every single of those diversity. We will find every single dimension of diversity that I've just expressed. What we must learn to do that is hard, and we must constantly re-examine how we do, is not just bring diversity to Williams, but live diversely here. This is hard work, and it's complicated, and it requires us to constantly ask ourselves, what is the state of our community and our communities, and what do we need to do to both allow the diversity to be expressed, but also to bring us together. In our students and faculty and staff, we bring America to Williams, and with all of our American difficulties and our history and our prejudices. But what we have the opportunity to do here is not simply to replay it all in Williamstown, but to do it better. And I am committed that year after year, we will continue to do so. I'm committed to a global perspective for Williams, not just bringing the diverse world to Williamstown, but engaging the diversity of the world in the Williams experience. We must seek ways continually to make the Williams experience an international one for the students and for the faculty and staff. It's certainly any graduate of Williams has to have a global perspective by the time they leave here. And finally, sustainability. Williams has been here for 200 years, and 200 years from now, we need to live on an earth that still has Williams in the Berkshires. And there is, in fact, no environment that is compels one more to realize that if we don't take care of this world that we are in, we won't have Williams College, and we won't have a lot more. The college has made an inspiring commitment to sustainability. The question is, how are we going to live that commitment out? And that is, again, work for our community for the years to come. The answers to all of these commitments, the way we will sustain them, is to attend to the quality of our many communities. And in the end, we are a collection of overlapping communities. We are many Johns Hopkinses and many students on many logs. And if we nourish those communities, we will sustain a great Williams. Now, let me say a word about, the times we live in. It's been a tough year for budgets all over. We certainly was at Johns Hopkins. I think that it's important to understand that when times of constraints on resources force us to declare our values, that when we cannot do everything that's a good idea or even a great idea, and we really have to make choices, then we need to have values that are expressed consistently within the community and make choices that are consistent with those. And it is the strength of these communities here. This is testing our communities, but the strength of those communities that will make sure that we make the right choices with values that are widely shared here at Williams. I believe that what Williams has to offer the world, this country and the world, has never been more relevant: the undergraduate liberal arts education. I'm going to make the case for that at every opportunity during my presidency. The faster the world changes, the more that what we do here, which is to focus on the essentials and on how we think and how we reason, the more that becomes the only thing worth teaching to undergraduates. And I think that Williams can continue to set the example it has always set for why that is the case. Now, I will be here many times in the next 6 months. I hope to meet so many of you during that period. I am profoundly grateful to Bill Wagner for his leadership between now and April. I will get here as fast as I can, but I know that because if I don't, then you're going to get so good at this that you won't want me to come. but I am very, very grateful to you, Bill. This is the world's greatest liberal arts college, and I come with the deepest admiration and respect for what Williams is, has been, and will be. What I pledge to you is that I will lead this remarkable institution with energy, with ethical commitment, and not the least of all, with joy. Thank you.